This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the AIPIS show for accredited income property investment specialists and those who aspire to be. If you're a real estate, mortgage, or financial professional, this is the place for you. We'll explore innovative investment analysis, sales, marketing, and income-generating strategies for the most historically proven wealth creator, income property. Learn from the experts as they show you how to build a better business and a better life.
Greetings, empowered investors. I am excited to bring to you a returning guest to the show, and that is none other than Mark Moss. He is an expert on monetary policy, monetary history, cryptocurrency, investments of all sorts, including real estate. And I want to start by talking a little bit about the future with AI and technology and how that impacts the world, inflation, deflation. Mark, we were talking about this at lunch. I hope we didn't take away the spontaneity of that discussion because it was good.
Yeah, it's something I spend a lot of time thinking about, but more importantly, it's a lot of time I spend a lot of time using.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we talked about when you came in is like, Jason, come over here and look at what I'm doing.
It was amazing. The outlines, the brainstorming that you're doing with ChatGPT.
Yeah. And the wearable technologies that I'm using, so the AI wearable technology. So it starts with AI wearables, which no one even knows what that is. And then how do we utilize that and put that into different workflows? Something that I'm trying to teach a coaching program that I have, which is a wealth building program. But I'm teaching people how to use it for strategic thinking. And everybody falls to this lower level where they're like, well, show me how I can get it through my emails. And show me how I can write these memos for me. And I'm like, would you stop it with the emails? You can hire someone for $7 an hour to do that.
That's easy.
We can literally get it to double your business in 12 months.
Well, you had a speaker about this at the ranch event I went to, when we were at your ranch outside of Austin, Texas. He really brought in the idea of using AI for strategic thinking, right? That's kind of a whole new level. People aren't using it that way very much.
Yeah, they're not. Something I spent a lot of time thinking about as I've been using it more and more. I had Tom Bailu from Impact Theory on here last night. We spent a lot of time thinking about this as well. And I think there's a lot of big misconceptions, and I know you want to talk through a couple of those, like we'll get rid of all the jobs.
Right, unemployment.
But I think one of the big misconceptions that we have right now is that AI is going to make everybody smarter, more capable, more efficient. And I think that's absolutely false. And I think it's going to exaggerate current problems that we have today, and it's going to make them even worse. And what am I talking about? Specifically, the divide between the rich and the poor, the have and have, is going to get worse.
Yeah. So the wealth gap grows because some people have the tools and others don't. I mean, over the course of the last 30 years, it's been the digital divide, but AI will just amplify that.
But it hasn't been the digital divide, Jason. America used to have a massive middle class. And the story goes that the middle class got hollowed out because we sent our jobs overseas. And what are those jobs? Those are manufacturing jobs. And what happened is in the industrial era, we created mechanized machines and factories, which then led to people moving to cities. And Henry Ford created the assembly line. And so what you had is this assembly line that created this massive populace of smart and dumb people working evenly.
Right.
So it made dumb people smarter and smart people dumber, and they worked evenly. So you had this massive middle class. But as we moved from the industrial age to the information age, it wasn't the digital age, really, it was the information age. And so that means that knowledge workers were able to then start getting ahead. And some people are just smarter than others. Yeah. Some people work harder than others. And so what happens is those tools allow those people to get ahead. And so, yes, we did ship a lot of jobs overseas, but those were low-paying jobs.
Yeah.
Back to AI, now I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm kind of thinking it's like now we're going from the information age to the intelligence age.
That's interesting, yeah.
The intelligence age. And what happens is technology is a tool that allows us to become more efficient. But we can use a screwdriver to scrape paint.
Yeah.
I can use a screwdriver as a weapon. I can use it to fix a car. If I took my car to the local mechanic shop with every pro tool and diagnostic piece of equipment in there, I couldn't fix the car any better because I don't know how to fix a car.
Right.
And so we now have this AI, which is almost like this exoskeleton. It's like human augmentation. Yeah. But most people aren't geared, prepared, or will know how to use the tool.
Yeah, so you're reminding me of quite a few things. Number one, my woodshop teacher in 8th grade, okay? Yeah. Because he would always make us do things by hand, sand the wood block by hand, right? He says, if you use the machine, you're just going to make the mistake faster, right? Yeah. And I thought that was an interesting point. But we've seen the power shift, and I remember Alvin Toffler writing about this years ago. He was a futurist, and we've seen the power shift from the idea of the mainframe computer to the desktop computer, giving everybody democratizing access to information processing. But now we are at a whole nother level with the artificial intelligence tools. And so in a lot of ways that democratizes things because everybody's using it.
No. Well, they're not using it properly. So let me give you an example of this. Benjamin Franklin said it doesn't make any Actually, I think maybe it was Einstein who said this. One of those two said it. Maybe it was Einstein. And he said, it doesn't make sense to fill your head with a bunch of facts that could be looked up in a book.
Yeah.
And now we have them at our disposal here. Yep. Google, which came out in, 1997, changed the game, right? Now we could look up anything in an instant, right? But yet today, I have like a high-ticket coaching programs. People pay me to coach them through, wealth and things like that. I was on one of my coaching calls, and people just asked the worst questions, Jason. And I literally had to stop. And I said, listen, guys, listen, everybody. You guys have paid me a lot of money to get on and coach you. Don't waste time asking me questions that you can just Google. Mm-hmm. How many times have you heard people asking questions or being stumped by a piece of information they could just Google? Yeah. And have you thought to yourself, why wouldn't you just look that up on Google? They don't think that way. And so now we have AI, which is 10 times, 100 times more powerful than Google, but they don't even know to ask Google. You think they're going to know the right question to ask on AI? And what I tell people is the quality of your life comes down to the questions that you ask.
I couldn't agree more.
And everybody, majority of people ask very poor questions, very vague, very general questions, or they don't even know to ask them.
Right.
So it's like this. Look, because I have a lot of experience in marketing, I can ask very specific marketing questions. Hey, help me nail down the avatar. My avatar is this. I'm looking at these 3 pillars. I want to tie content, right? Because I understand that. Now, someone else who doesn't know marketing can't ask that question. But what they could do is they could say, hey, I want to become a world-class marketing expert. Teach me to become that. Run me through a quiz. Tell me what the 3 levels of a funnel are or awareness are. But they don't even know to ask that question.
So that's where it becomes a thinking tool, okay? And we've talked about, how to use AI, and I'm happy to talk about that more. But what I definitely want to get to is the inflationary and deflationary outlook and the unemployment. Yeah. Look, and I'll just give you something to chew on there, right? Elias Howe invented the sewing machine, okay? And amazingly, there were huge concerns around that by women. What will women do with all their spare time? I think they figured it out. Okay? And if you look at the stats on jobs that have been lost due to technology, there's literally only one job that has disappeared because of technology: elevator operator. We do it yourself. We push our own buttons in elevators almost all the time. So everybody kind of retooled and retrained and figured out how to do a new job. But with AI, it's just such a leap. It's not like the Uber driver is going to become an AI programmer, right? When AI takes away all those jobs. The other night, just last week, I rode in a self-driving Waymo in San Francisco. I did that before in Phoenix. It's incredible. I mean,
better than with a driver.
Yeah, and transportation is one of the biggest jobs in the world. All the drivers for all the deliveries and all the taxis and all the Ubers and the Lyfts and all that kind of stuff. So what happens here? I mean, what will be the new jobs these people get when their jobs are destroyed?
Well, so the way that technology works, and really the way economies are supposed to work, is by improving efficiency.
Yep.
Because what we want as humans is we want leverage. We want more output for less input.
Yep.
So we create a tool. I'm not that strong, so I make a tool to make me stronger. I can't lift that much, so I create a tool to make me lift more, right? And so what economy does is supposed to create that leverage for us, that efficiency. And technology does those things. Now, if we go back to sort of what I think is maybe the first technological sort of boom before the big industrial revolution, you had the power loom, We could make tapestries faster.
Right, sure. Yeah.
And you had a group of people known as the Luddites who went and burned all the looms because they were afraid it would take their jobs.
Right.
And it did take their jobs. Then we had the Industrial Revolution, 1778, and we had the first mechanized machines. And now you had machines, because at that time it was all farming, and you had machines that could do the work of 5,000 men.
Yeah.
But what do those 5,000 men do? Well, in the beginning, nothing. They're out of work. Eventually, they do science and medicine. And you know what I mean? And so every new technology, it's creative destruction, does destroy the old technology. It's what happens. But it also creates a new set of jobs. So what happens is technology, again, is supposed to give us leverage. So it's supposed to get rid of low-level tasks so we can go work on higher value tasks. So one of the things right now with the global tariffs going on, massive tariffs against Asia, Vietnam, for example. And what does Vietnam make? T-shirts and Nikes. And we don't want to make T-shirts and Nikes in the U.S. It's not economical.
But we want to get the lifestyle benefit of having them for low prices.
And so some people are like, well, let's just keep using slave labor overseas. It's not slave labor. You see, each nation has to climb its way out of that. The U.S. was there 100 years ago.
Sure, of course.
And so those people have not yet got to the ability to get to the next level, but we all will. That's what technology does for us. So anyway, every piece of technology has threatened. The candle maker was threatened by electricity. The buggy maker was threatened by the automobile. And on and on and on. But what happens is it's proven that technology creates more jobs than it gets rid of.
So how does that look with AI? Because we are on the verge of seeing a massive elimination of just so many jobs.
But I might argue the opposite. You know how many jobs have been created?
Well, of course they'll be created, but I'm wondering
They already have been.
Tell me.
Sure. So one of the hottest things going right now on Twitter is something known as vibe coding.
Okay. Oh, I've heard of that. What is?
And now they're talking about vibe marketing. Okay. So what's happening now is there's all types of new softwares and programs that are popping up, being created by teams that allow us to use an AI to just vibe through it, just chat with it and come up with concepts and then put it into these no-code tools
apps
and create apps.
Yeah.
And so now we have teams building new softwares that have never been created.
Yeah.
And we have other people coming in using these new tools that are there, such as the AI to brainstorm it, do the market research and the no-code. And now they're creating new apps, and then they're hiring new salespeople to go sell these apps. And so there's this whole new economy that's being created.
I get it. And I think the hard part for all of us humans is to imagine all the new needs and wants that we don't even think about now that will be created as we become more prosperous and we are freed up from these lower level jobs. But I guess the hard part for me to think about it is, how do these people that get their jobs taken away by the machine, if you will, I don't think it's that same person that can jump to this new job. And that's what concerns me about the wealth gap, right? Because I love a large middle class. That's what makes a country, a society stable. That's what
I think the large middle class was a wrinkle in time.
That's not really, maybe it was. It was pretty short-lived, really.
I think it was a wrinkle in time because of that, the technology. So if you look back through thousands of years of history, it's always technology that changes the world because it changes how we organize, communicate, but also how we work. And so we had this period where machines created this large middle class. It made everybody work on the same plane, and that's over, and that's not coming back. I would also argue to look at it differently, because what happens is, and this is what the socialists and the communists get wrong, is that status is a zero-sum game. In order for me to get ahead, you have to go down. Wealth is not. Wealth creates more wealth. So when Jeff Bezos became one of the richest people in the world by making Amazon, millions of people now have become millionaires selling products on Amazon.
Right. It's same with eBay before that. Really,
and
eBay had its day
millions of
before
more
Amazon.
producers have gotten rich by selling to the people selling on Amazon. So it creates more wealth.
Yep. The pie gets bigger.
But I
and
think
that's
we
good.
need to also look at things differently and not look at the amount of money you make, but the standard of living that you have. You see, if you take a look at, and this is America, and obviously you look at the rest of the world, it's different. I was just in Indonesia, it's a different story. But in America, back to Jeff Bezos being one of the richest people in the world now, he's able to travel by air. The average American is able to travel by air.
Yep.
He has flat screen TVs. They have flat screen TVs. He has the internet in his pocket. They have the internet in their pocket. He travels by car. They travel by car. He has refrigeration and food. They have, so from a consumption standpoint, the standard of living has come up. Now, he has more money because his net value, it's in his stock, he doesn't really sell it. Whatever does that mean? Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, I don't know if you saw, his house he bought for $50,000. It's 1,200 square feet and he has plastic furniture in it.
It's so funny. Yeah. Elon is a strange bird.
But so I think if we look at,
he lived in a boxable house for a while.
So if we look at our standard of living, I think we see that coming up. Now, obviously, there's big discrepancies. But I would go back to one thing that you said that sparked a thought for me, is that the majority of people were trained in an industrial era education system for an industrial system that's no longer here today. Right. Specifically, the school system from Prussia in the late 1800s was brought over into the U.S. by Rockefeller, et cetera, to train factory workers and specifically train them to be good subservient workers and not think outside the box, have their own ideas. Now, that was an industrial era, so they could just work on the assembly line. We're not in that era. So people have been taught and equipped with tools for a world that no longer exists. If they could learn one basic concept, this is what I teach all my daughters, I teach their friends. The only reason you get money is if you provide value. What does that mean, provide value? If I solve a problem.
Yep.
So at McDonald's, if I want to place an order, I need to place the order. If someone places the order, they can earn some money for that. And that's very low value, so they make low money.
Now the computer places the order.
Who makes the computer, right? So if you think about it like that, and the reason why I say that is no matter what happens in the future with technology, I don't believe there's any future where humans no longer have problems. And as long as there's problems to solve, there's value to create and there's money to be made.
Yeah, that's a good point. Someone will be there to solve them. The old idea of business used to be find a need and fill it.
It still is.
Well,
it always will be.
Actually, I think it's more than that. It's been more than that for probably 30 years, and I'll give you an example of it. Now it's imagine a need and fill it. Because in the example, I remember Paul Zane Pilzer uses an example in his old book called Unlimited Wealth, A Theory and Practice of Economic Alchemy. He says, no one knew they needed a waterproof cordless phone until Sony invented one, and then everybody with a backyard pool needed one, right? So our needs are, we just keep needing more and wanting more, right? And it's hard to imagine what needs we will have in the future once we are freed from some of the things we have to do now, right?
Yeah. And I think where this gets really interesting for me, and I know it's really scary out there. At the time of this recording right now, Trump just escalated the tariffs on China. China said they're not backing down.
Yeah, everything's crazy.
It looks like, as of right now, I looked up before we jumped on, like China's now starting to dump U.S. treasuries. Like it's about to get real here. And I get it, it's like scary. But if we just like zoom out a little bit, I believe we're about to go into the greatest era of prosperity and wealth that the world has ever seen.
And I agree with you, by the way. Yeah.
Because this new technology will make our lives easier, will make our lives more efficient, and we'll get into this sort of what they're calling like a post-scarcity world. But here's the thing. The technology that's really helped us over the last 100 years, we've never been able to reap the full benefits of the technology, because what's happening is the technology is saving us hours of our life. So instead of having to get on a plane and fly to New York, I can just FaceTime you. That saved me 6 hours, right? So technology saves time. I used to have to manually enter stuff. Now my spreadsheet does it automatically. It saves me hours of compute time. So technology has saved us hours and hours of our life. But at the same time as technology has given us hours of our life back, the monetary system with its endless debasement and inflation is stealing those hours back. So I used to be able to earn the median home for a certain amount of hours. Today it's like 5 times more hours.
Yeah.
I used to buy the average share of the Dow. Now it's more hours. And so while we're getting more hours back of our life from technology, we're losing it to inflation.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because you know how I illustrate that point basically is like a boxing match, right? And in one corner of the ring, you have bad fiscal and monetary policy. Those are inflationary. In the other corner of the ring, you have technology, which is deflationary. The problem is, and you talk about this all the time, the consumer price index is so manipulated by weighting, substitution, and hedonic indexing. It's like the hedonic indexing is stealing the progress from the individual, right? Because every new technology that makes life better, they take it away by adjusting that into the index, right? And saying, can you imagine if we hedonically index the CPI since the invention of the electric light bulb? They would say there's no inflation at all when there really is a lot of inflation.
Well, I think Ludwig von Mises, I consider the kind of father of the Austrian School of Economics. People would argue maybe it's not him. But anyway, I think he gave a talk in around 1952, and he said that, hey, watch out. Like they're trying to change the definition of inflation.
Yeah.
It's not CPI. They're trying to change it because CPI, consumer price inflation, is a misleading name and number and metric, and it confuses us, and there's no rhyme or reason for that. Inflation is like when I inflate a balloon, I'm increasing the volume of air in a balloon. So inflation is increasing the volume of money. So it's always, like Rothbard said, it's Rothbard and Friedman. It's always inflation is always a monetary phenomenon.
Friedman,
yeah. And so you're talking about the CPI basket.
Yeah.
And if you look at the CPI basket, prices of basically the free market stuff, TVs, electronics, all that stuff at the prices come down. Anything that sort of has government intervention, healthcare,
it's all gone
education,
up.
It's all gone up. But I think I like to just look at inflation. So I look at the increase in the monetary supply. And I think, if we look at the Fed balance sheet or the M2 money supply over the last 5 years, it's about 10% a year. That's what I would consider inflation. Some prices move up more or less, but 10% a year is about that number.
Yeah, right. Okay, so your outlook on, the next 5 years, for example, inflationary, deflationary, amazing technology, deflationary pressure, bad fiscal and monetary, inflationary pressure. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I didn't really get to finish what I was going to say about the greatest era of prosperity that we've seen in 500 years, 600 years. And the reason why I say that
since the Renaissance.
Since the Renaissance. And I'm calling it Renaissance 2.0. So in the Renaissance, from about the 1500s for a few hundred years, we saw the greatest era of prosperity coming out of the Dark Ages. The sort of the greatest era of prosperity the world had ever seen at that point. And there was a couple conditions that made for that. So number one, we had an explosion of information. So that was the printing press had just been created about 70 years earlier. And now we have the internet and AI, which is an explosion of information. At the same time, they had sort of in Florence, sort of this global capital of trade, and so trade started flourishing. And really what enabled that trade to flourish was they had a new coin called the florin, which is a gold coin. It was the longest lasting coin in history that wasn't debased. 400 years of sound money policy. So you take this explosion of information at a time when we have a globally recognized currency that is not debased, sound money, and you see massive prosperity. And so now today we have the information age with the internet, but also AI, which is going to create massive prosperity. And again, technology should give us that deflation or give us our standard of living up. As I said, the monetary debasement is stealing that from us, but now we have Bitcoin. And so now we have sort of the same components. We have the internet and AI, which is like the printing press. And now just like the florin sound money, we have Bitcoin. And I believe for those that adopt it early enough, we'll be able to reap the full benefits of the technology and live this deflationary life.
Right, and that's interesting because what you're saying is that the bad fiscal and monetary policy we will be insulated from that by using the non-debasable, I guess, Bitcoin, right? And we'll have all the benefits of the technology that will just come to everybody. But our currency won't be debased because we'll beat inflation. Right?
That's right. So if you look at the price of almost anything in the last 5 years or 10 years, it's come down in Bitcoin terms. So but we were talking earlier about you have a chart that you show frequently, maybe put up on the screen while we're talking, but the price of homes, and you have them priced in Bitcoin.
And a bunch of other things.
And a bunch of other things, And
they've gotten cheaper, like real estate is cheaper.
So
in Bitcoin.
Gasoline and oil and eggs and lumber and you name it, they've all gotten cheaper in Bitcoin terms while they're getting more expensive in dollar terms. And so we have the ability to change our own unit of account. And so we can see things getting cheaper in Bitcoin terms and get the benefit of the technology at the same time. Now, you said for everybody. Unfortunately, it's not for everybody.
Well, everybody has access to the technology and everybody has access to Bitcoin, even in the smallest amount.
Well, everybody has access to both of those if they are able to have an open mind and ask the right questions. And this goes back to sort of the question that you asked earlier. What happens to all those people that get displaced? And you asked, is it the same generation that picks it up? So some people would probably easily argue no, right? Like you're too old, an old dog can't learn new tricks. What I would say is, at the state park, they have a sign that says, don't feed the animals
because they become dependent. Imagine that. Welfare is the same thing.
But humans aren't animals. Right? I think if we're hungry enough, we'll go work. We'll go dig a hole. We'll go do something. People are calling we need UBI. We need UBI because
universal basic income
because it's going to displace so many jobs. We have to take care of those people. But it's the safety net that causes them not to go get retrained.
Right.
And so I think, people will go find that job if they are hungry enough, and I know that sounds maybe a little bit inhumane, but it's like we have to learn to provide value. We have to learn to up-level our skills. And, we can talk about the bottom and the social safety net that needs to be put in there, but I think I'm looking at the era of prosperity. And for those that are listening to your show and that listen to my show, that are forward-thinking, that are looking to increase their skills and provide more value to the world, for us, it's the greatest era of prosperity that we've ever seen, because we can change our unit of account. Yeah. We can adopt these tools right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, I like Bitcoin well enough, for sure, and you know that, and I have some, and I am just concerned because, like you mentioned, the florin, and everybody agreed that was the currency. Not everybody agrees that Bitcoin is the currency or the store of value or whatever you want it to be, right? It's certainly not the currency, right? Because it's hard to spend, it can't process, the processing speed's not big enough, and so forth on layer one. So, do you want to address that?
Yeah, no, that's obviously not true. So,
obviously not true.
Yeah, you can spend Bitcoin faster and cheaper than anything else. You said on layer one.
Well, I'm talking about on layer one.
You said on layer one. So what happens is
processing speed is not high enough
on layer one. Yeah. But what happens is technology scales in layers. That's just how it works, right? So we have the base internet protocol, TCP/IP, but we want other features like email. That's an SMTP protocol. Right. It sits on the next layer. Yep. And we need HTTPS security, so it sits on the next layer. Yeah. So to say that it doesn't work on layer one is sort of like self-defeating.
Okay. All right, because Lightning, so you use Lightning on top of Bitcoin.
Well, there's multiple layer 2s and layer 3s at this point. Okay. And the reason why is, let's look at the monetary system. So we had gold. Gold was final settlement. I have the gold. I give you the gold. You have the gold. Right.
But then we had receipts, and that was fiat.
Well, gold's too slow, so it goes in the bank, and they give me a paper gold certificate, an IOU, a claim. Now, we can trade the paper way faster, but it's not final settlement because I have to go to the bank and actually get the gold.
Right.
So that would be layer 2. Then the banks gave us checks. That's layer 3. And then they gave us credit cards. That's layer 4. Then we have Venmo. That's layer 5. But we don't just have Venmo. We have Venmo. We have PayPal. We have
Square.
Yeah. Now, each one of those, I could do a check still. Or I could do, but why Venmo, or why not PayPal, or why
WeChat,
Square?
That's another one.
Each one has a different set of trade-offs.
Right.
So what happens is on Bitcoin, if I want to send a final settlement, censorship resistant, immutable for all transactions for all time in history, then I'll wait 10 minutes and I'll pay the $1 or $2 for the transaction.
If I want moving the gold from one vault to the other.
That's like moving gold from one vault to another. If I want to pay for a cup of coffee, that doesn't need to be censorship resistant, immutable for all of humanity. So I'll send that over layer 2 or layer 3 in an instant for free.
Okay.
And so it allows me as the user to choose the trade-offs at the level.
What I'm getting at there is not to debate how much more efficient we can make Bitcoin. But, it's really a question of what does Bitcoin need to be to succeed? In other words, does it need to be just a store of value like gold, or does it need to be a currency that's usable easily every day? What you just said is, it can be both, right? But what do you really think at the core of it needs to be to
Well, I guess it would depend on what your definition of success is. The fact that it is the best performing asset of all time, but
only for 15 years. Like, that's a pretty short history.
So I got the benefit of speaking at Peter Schiff's.
Well, a little more than 15 years.
I had the benefit of
Peter Schiff.
I spoke at his mastermind, which is Sovereign Schiff now,
yeah.
or Schiff Sovereign, I should say. And we were in Mexico City, and I don't know why they asked me to come speak at the mastermind, and Schiff was there, obviously. And we got a debate outside for a long time, and
did you guys debate on stage?
No, they didn't let us do it on stage, but they took us up one at a time, and I had to take notes and go up and counter. But outside, then we went outside and we had a crowd. But anyway, the one thing that the sticking point for him is it's only been around for 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
Well, candles were light for 5,000 years too.
Yeah.
Right. So sure, it's only been around for 15 years. Sure.
Okay, but
But back to what is your definition of success? Yeah. So it's already protected my wealth better than any other asset in the world. And then you asked, does it have to become a currency? It doesn't have to be. What happens is we want to use the right tool for the job. So if I want to buy a cup of coffee, Gresham's law states that good money drives out bad. Up to 1965, quarters and dimes were made of pure silver.
Right.
You won't find those in circulation anymore.
Yeah.
If you just happen to get one at the store, you wouldn't spend it.
Yeah, that's good money.
It's good money, and you spend the bad. So we're always going to want to spend the fiat and keep the Bitcoin.
Right.
Unless, so you obviously know plenty of gold people. Gold companies, they sell bags of junk silver.
Yep.
Which are
I've owned many of those.
Which are bags of quarters and dimes.
Yep.
And do you know why people buy bags of old
because
core
they're
does.
small, divisible, and
But why do they need small divisible?
they want them to be usable in a major crisis,
Right,
currency
okay.
collapse.
Got it. So they're not going to use them unless it's the only form of payment they could use. Right. So what that tells us is that I'm only going to use the good money if it's the only form of money I could use. So for example, the lady that cuts my hair, she's from Afghanistan. And when Biden admin pulled out of Afghanistan in 2022, the Taliban took over. It was a disaster. She's like, Mark, I really wish I could send some money back home to help these women in Afghanistan. I feel so bad for them. But the Taliban's taken over the bank. I can't send them
With
money.
Bitcoin, you can do it.
But Bitcoin, you can do it. If you're in North Korea with Bitcoin, you can do it, right? And so that's something only Bitcoin can do. And so as we need that more, but here's where, back to the age of prosperity.
But to be fair, any cryptocurrency can do that.
So to be,
it won't be censorship resistant, though.
Right.
That's a fair point. Yeah,
Right.
Bitcoin really is.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Now, what I think is going to happen back to the age of prosperity, Renaissance 2.0, is I believe, and it's not that I believe it, we're already seeing it, it's already happening, back to using or needing a medium of exchange that the current system can't support. So there's no way for me to send 25 cents to somebody in another country. It costs more than that to send a transaction.
Yeah, microtransactions have
so
not
microtransactions,
been
but also
yet.
high frequency of. So if you and I traded $5 back and forth online 100 times, it's gone.
Yep.
So you can't do microtransactions. You can't do fast transactions. Also, there's about 1 billion adults in the world who have no access to banking because they don't have permission to join. So you need permission. So you have to be a person. You have to have KYC. You have to have the documents, et cetera. And you can't be from a sanctioned country, et cetera. Well, machines aren't people. So Bitcoin is not only borderless and permissionless, it's also personless. So now we can have a machine that can have its own wallet and can do microtransactions over high frequency. So for example, we already have AI agents. AI agents is a rapidly growing space.
Oh, that's going to be huge. Yeah.
And so we already had AI agents that have gone out, done a business plan, found out what you want to do, found a domain name for it, gone and bought the domain name using Bitcoin Lightning.
They'll set up a whole business. I mean, in the very near future, an AI agent, you have a business idea at dinner, it'll just set it up for you.
But how's it going to pay to hire other agents?
Right. Yeah.
Because it can't do it with fiat.
Right. But it can do it from machine to machine. There's going to be a whole ecosystem of.
But it can't do it with US dollars.
Right. No, of course it can't. Yeah. But there's going to be a whole ecosystem of a machine economy. Self-driving cars is a great example because those could be like autonomous corporations, right? Each car, for example, could be. And we're going to have to give machines a certain kind of rights that they don't have today in order to be able to
I don't know about all that. I mean, I don't believe in the singularity and they're smarter than us and they need human rights. I mean, someone created them.
No, but they don't have to be smarter than us, right? An autonomous car could be its own business.
No, but somebody created that and put that program into it, right? So at that point, that person owns it. But doesn't change the fact that it still needs to go work on an autonomous level.
Yeah.
Doesn't change the fact it still needs to be able to send and receive payment. Doesn't change the fact that I create an agent that's going to go do autonomous work on my behalf. So it still needs to be able to transact, but I created the agents working on my behalf. But we've already seen, so we're building out a bunch of AI workflows in my company. And I saw this one workflow where basically this company has, all the officers of the company, sales and marketing, et cetera. And they've created these AI agents that shadow each of the positions.
Amazing.
And so then it logs all the conversations and all the tasks and all the counters, right? And so now, I don't know if you've seen this, but now it's pretty common. You can talk to it, verbally. So now the CEO could call any of the officers' shadow agents and just talk to them. Hey, what is this like? Whatever. But now the AI agent shadows are talking amongst themselves. Right. So now marketing's talking to sales without the people, but the agents on their behalf. Yeah. So it's happening really fast. And this is all 6 months in.
I know.
And so I think that's what's really going to push the Bitcoin medium of exchange narrative really, really rapidly, because only that can really solve that problem.
So does all of this awesome technology that it's here, but it's going to just get more and more amazing, does it make us all so prosperous that we have a lot more money to spend into the system, which is push inflation, or it's pull inflation, right? Because we're demanding more stuff with our prosperity. That could be very inflationary when at the same time the technology is in its essence deflationary because we're getting more for less with technology. It's really hard to come to, at least for me, I haven't really settled on.
I think it depends on how much the government tries to stand in the way. So as we already talked about, right, if you look at some asset prices have seen massive, consumer prices have seen massive deflation. and some have seen massive inflation. And it really depends on which ones the government's involved in.
Yeah.
And so if the government gets out of the way and we allow a free market, of course, consumers are always going to step in and fill those needs. Always. That's how the free market works.
Yep.
What the Trump administration is doing specifically is trying to just get rid of all the red tape and really peel that back. I believe,
which is a wonderful thing.
I believe they'll be very successful. He was successful with doing that in his first term.
Yep.
So I would say if the government can get out of the way, then we would have the full benefit of that. I mean, just think about it, right? It's like when we were still in the gold standard, I mean, in 1970, a cup of coffee was, I don't know, I wasn't buying coffee at that time, but 10 cents or whatever.
Well, yeah, you can see it in movies. There'd be some, what they used to call a hobo or a bum on the street saying, brother, can I have 10 cents for a cup of coffee?
Okay.
You know, can I have a dime
and
for a
wouldn't
cup
you
of
think
coffee?
with all the technology that we have today, it would be faster, easier, and cheaper to get a bean from Colombia or Costa Rica to my cup today?
Of course, yeah.
But instead it's now $4. We just had coffee, right? It's $4. And so I think it goes the other way. I think, you know, I believe in massive prosperity. I believe that, again, as I said earlier, it's always technology that changes the world. And the government, I mentioned that we were, the majority of people, the problem that we have is that we were trained for an industrial system that's no longer here and equipped with tools that's no longer here. Yeah. But the government that we have today was a government that was designed for the industrial era. Mm-hmm. And the government that we have today is no longer compatible with the world that we live in either.
Couldn't agree more.
And so it's going to change rapidly as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if we see, like, you know, borderless, stateless. Government definitely needs to redesign itself. And it's the slowest moving thing of all. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay, anything you want to say in closing?
I saw yesterday a leaked memo on Twitter, and it was the CEO of Shopify. And they're not hiring anybody that is not proficient in AI. Mm-hmm. And now they've incorporated it into all their performance reviews. And if you're not improving with AI, you're not working there.
Interesting. And Shopify is a big e-commerce website builder. I guess that's
right.
the way
But I've been telling my team for weeks now, for maybe a month, it's like you either learn these tools, you get replaced by them. And so what I would say to people listening, you know, people that we talk to, our audience, is like, this is the greatest opportunity we've ever had. The future is not evenly distributed.
Yep.
So we have
that's what Peter Thiel says. Yeah.
Bitcoin's given us this decade to really pile in before the world's catching on, and still today people are still skeptical. So it's still not evenly distributed. Now's your time even to pile into that, and now we have these new tools. And so for those of us that see the opportunity before others, I mean, now is the time. I think it's going to lead to the greatest opportunity. And while the skies are a little dark and scary right now because of the tariff wars, I think if you look a little further out, it's pretty positive.
Yeah, I think I couldn't agree more. That's Mark Moss. Check him out on YouTube and his podcast. Mark, thank you again.
Yeah, Jason, love it.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.